There we go. Welcome everybody to this SOLIDWORKS webinar, the first in a series of webinars. My name is Scott Ellery. I am I guess you'd call me a data management expert. I've been lead on SOLIDWORKS Manage at Javelin since before it was SOLIDWORKS Manage. Essentially what we're just trying to do is give you a little bit of an idea of what Manage can do for you, and we're just kind of breaking it into chunks for each session. So let's get going here. There we go, perfect. Again, if anybody can't see my screen or see my face or hear my voice, feel free to pop it in the chat there. But it seems like everything's good so far. So we do have 3 webinars in this series. Part 1, which is today, which is going to be discovering why SOLIDWORKS Manage is the BOM. So today we're going to be going over some of the BOM management capabilities of Manage and how it ties in with PDM as well. The next one, which will be next week, next Monday, will focus more on the process side of Manage and what we can do there, and the aptly named bringing processes together while teams are apart. And the last one, which will be 2 weeks from now, is going to be project management and getting that CAD data out of isolation. It seems we've got quarantine on the brain here. So before we actually get into the webinar, just a little bit of an idea of what Manage actually is, in case you haven't seen it before, or if you haven't heard a lot about it. It all kind of starts from PDM. So PDM, you've probably heard of it, or you're using it by now. It's really there to eliminate any risk that you may have with your data, to make sure it stays secure. And it's got a lot of great features. It's got things like the automated workflow to make sure that it's taking care of your administrative tasks, the built-in revision control, being able to have secure access to your files with security, being able to share externally. It's got a lot of great features. And what Manage does is it just literally sits right on top of PDM. So it is very deeply integrated with what PDM is, and there's a lot of management integration in PDM and a lot of PDM integration in Manage. And it really extends the capabilities of what PDM can do. It gives you access to connected project management, full bill of materials control, and management, which we'll look at today. It gives you a full web interface, live dashboards and reporting capabilities, and just really kicks it up a notch in what it can deliver. So the subject of this webinar series is going to be this scooter here. We're actually going to be working on the drivetrain of this scooter, this mountain scooter. And we're going to start off with bills of materials. So, how do we capture everything on a project, right? PDM does a pretty good job, but kind of where does Manage come in, and what are the different capabilities? Okay. We've only got about a half hour, 45 minutes today. I want to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So we're not going to be able to get through everything, but I want to hit on the major topics. The first thing we're going to start with is the actual integration between Manage and PDM. So what does that look like? What does it mean? What can we do in PDM with regards to Manage? We'll get into the actual BOM management side of things. What does it look like? How do we add in records to our bills of materials? We're talking about variants. So when we need to have multiple bills of materials because you may be shipping something in more than one location, or you may have an E-BOM and an M-BOM, or a shipping BOM, or what have you. How variants can help keep all of our data organized and in one central location. And then we'll talk about collaboration. Certainly when it comes to bills of materials, there's different people that have to touch it along the way. Sometimes you have 2 people that need to touch the same thing at the same time, and we'll look at some ways that we can do that inside of Manage. Okay, so here, I'm going to just turn off my video here so you can concentrate. We're going to start with integration. Okay, so that's where we want to go. So we're going to start inside of PDM. Okay, now I could use a template here to automatically create a project. I'm just going to create a folder, and I'm going to put in some project folders in here. Okay, so just a copy and a paste, and just like you get right now with PDM, it's going to do a great job of scanning all of the files that are going in there. It knows all of the file structures, and we can just give that a quick check-in. Okay, so we can check that into the vault, right? And this is exactly what we would expect from PDM. And when I check it in, I get things like my live CAD preview. I also get the bill of materials, which is really important because it's going to automatically build the BOM for me, right? And I can have my different BOM views and everything like that, which is great. The only issue with this becomes adding things to the bill of materials that are not actually modeled, right? It's great that it builds this for you, but the part has to be there in order for it to be on the bill of materials. So what we can do with Manage is we can add in what are called records. So they're not actually files, they are essentially containers of metadata, but we can create a more complete bill of materials utilizing these. So if we pop into Manage, we can go over to our different documents and records, right? You can see that there's our vault, right? So our vault's right inside of the Manage environment, and it's up to date. We just added that Scooter project. All of my files are in there. I get nice little preview images of what they all are, and my file structure is there, right? The nice thing is too is that it's syncing all of the BOM information as well, which we'll see in the next step. If I wanted to do something like check something out inside of Manage, it's the same way that you would do it in PDM. You're taking ownership of it, and everything syncs back to PDM, and everything from PDM syncs into Manage, just to make sure that everything stays nice and copacetic. You can also use all of the filtering capabilities in Manage as well to quickly filter out your vault, right? Maybe you only want to see all your documents or all your parts, or maybe you only want to see certain files that are checked out by you or are part of a certain project. Very, very easy to utilize those quick filters in Manage to very quickly filter out that information. Okay. So very, very deep integration between Manage and PDM. It really allows you to work in both simultaneously and make sure that all of your information is up to date. Okay. Now getting more into the BOM management side of things. Oops. Okay, so if I were to take an assembly in Manage, in this case, our top level assembly, and I can pop this record open, right? And this gives me all of the information about this record or this file. So you can see the full bill of materials is there, same as we would have in PDM. But in this case, maybe I want to be able to add some records that or some BOM items that are not modeled. Okay, in this case, maybe we want to go ahead and edit this, and we can add in some Loctite, and we can add in some grease. So these are things that we wouldn't typically model. Generally, you don't model Loctite. You might, try and put it in as a phantom part or as a fake part in your bill of materials to try and capture this stuff. But Manage just makes it super easy. We can grab that record, we specify how many that we need for the bill of materials, and we add it to the bill of materials. Right? If I want to go ahead and grab the grease in this case, I can grab it, add the quantity that I need to my bill of materials, add and close, and that's going to go ahead and update that. Okay, so if I drop down to the bottom of my BOM, you can see there are those two items that have been added, right? Now at this point, okay, I can see this in Manage, which is great. I can start, creating my more complete bill of materials. If it's, I have to add labels or packaging or whatever, right? I can start adding that and getting that complete bill of materials. But what about in PDM, right? Because really we need to be able to see when this information is updated. And sometimes if you're a designer or you're an engineer, you may feel more comfortable with PDM, or you may just not necessarily need to be in Manage if you're not, a project manager or what have you, right? So if we open the part in PDM and I go to the bill of materials, you're going to see that you're not going to see the record here. And that's because this bill of material is pulling directly from the SOLIDWORKS file. But there is a SOLIDWORKS Manage tab, an add-in that is integrated into PDM. And with that, I can see everything that's inside of the bill of materials. So even though I'm, working on just the design or whatnot, and I don't necessarily need to be in that managed environment, I still have access to all of the managed information, including all of the BOM, anywhere used within Manage, any tasks that have been assigned to me, any references that have been attached to any records, all at my fingertips directly inside of PDM without the need to jump into Manage. The other thing as well is, and it looks like I don't have it there, which is fine. We can also utilize the reporting capabilities of Manage directly inside of PDM as well. So if I wanted to run a report, in this case, if I wanted to run like a bill of materials report or something like that, I could just in a quick right click do that in PDM without the need to be in Manage. Manage is very powerful with reporting capabilities. It does have a built-in report builder, and we can utilize that in both the Manage and the PDM environment without having to switch back and forth. All right. So if you want to step that up a notch, we can get into variants. So what variants are is essentially if I jump into, in this case, a shipping BOM, maybe we want to create a new record. And I'm going to be shipping this part into multiple locations. So I want to create a main record that's going to be all the shipping information for this, this project. And we won't bother with the shipping information right now. And once I save this, I get access to my bill of materials. And if I click on the bill of materials, you can see I've got different tabs up here at the top. I've got US, EU, and Canada, for instance. And this could be whatever you want it to be. This can be within a country. If I've got to ship to different provinces, maybe I've got different suppliers I need to keep track of. It could be different countries. It could be EBOM and MBOM for manufacturing and engineering bill of materials. It can be pretty much for whatever you need it to be. But what this does is it allows us to have multiple bills of materials within one record. So in this case, we're going to create a US variant first. And I can actually copy from existing bills of materials just so that I don't have to start from scratch. So in this case, we're actually going to copy from another record. We're going to copy the bill of materials from our project. So we can do a quick search in our vault, grab the assembly that we need, and copy it in. Right, so now we've got that full bill of materials, which is great. And then we'll just add some shipping information in this case. So we're going to add some packaging, and we're going to add some bubble wrap. So we can jump to our packaging area of our commodities library. We can grab some boxes that we'll need for shipping. And we'll grab, this is per foot, so we'll grab maybe, I don't know, 25 feet of a bubble wrap. Okay, and this can be anything. You could use crates here. You could have a multitude of different record types. Essentially, anything that usually it's purchased items. Anything that isn't a solid model that you don't have inside of your assembly you're going to want that as a record inside of Manage, and you can capture that information. So you can see now we've got that cardboard box and that bubble wrap down at the bottom there. So we've got this kind of US variant of a bill of materials, but maybe I also need to ship to the EU, for instance, and maybe I have different suppliers. I might have parts that aren't available there that are available in the US, and I may need to have to be able to manage that. So what I can do is I can go to my EU variant, and I can start by copying from the US variant. So I can copy from another record. I can also copy from within the same record. So this is going to duplicate the variant from the US, and then I can start making any changes that I need to make to it. Right. So if, for instance, I have different suppliers in the EU than I do in the US, so I can quickly filter down some parts here. In this case, maybe there's a brake caliper that I've got a different supplier for. So I can specify the supplier. In this case, it's going to be Gates Corp for that brake caliper. And maybe I've got some fasteners, or washers in this case. So all the washers in my assembly for the EU is going to be I don't know, McMaster car in this particular case. Right. So very easy to go through and be able to customize and configure those different variants. Right. And this is not, just for suppliers. You can do this for any field that you need to. I mean, you can have as many custom fields as you want. For instance, maybe I have to specify the color of a specific line item, or maybe it's a finish, or even it could be effectivity, right? So if I need to change the different effectivity dates for different BOM variants, depending on where it's going or where it's being ordered from, very easy to do, and keep kind of the bill of materials separate, but also contained inside of the same record. You're not hunting down multiple records, right? Even if I have to replace certain parts that are already in there. In this case, this cardboard box may not be available in the EU, so we're going to replace it with a different box. So even though it already exists, we can do a quick replace, and it'll update our bill of materials for us. So variants are very powerful. Very easy way to keep all of our information in one spot. And again, it's just a great way to track the different bills of materials that may be required, because generally there's quite a few throughout the project. The nice thing too is if we've got two different variants or we've got two different BOMs, it's very easy for us within Manage to compare these. So in this case, we're going to compare the different variants, but you could do this between different projects, right? They may be very similar. You want to see what's different about them. This compare tool is fantastic. It gives you a visual representation of the changes, so we'll be able to see what's new, what's been modified, what's been deleted. And you'll be able to do this with, again, the variants or different revision levels of bills of materials, different BOM views, and very quickly out of this, you can export this to Excel. So if you do need to get this information to anyone that may not have access to Manage, or you may just need to send it down to the manufacturing floor, these are all fully, you can kind of see in the different cells there, these are fully formatted. It's not just a picture, these are actually filled out. So you could start manipulating this data if you needed to, or aggregating it somewhere else, or sending it off. And it's a nice little side-by-side comparison to show you what may be, in this case, different between the different BOM variants. So the last thing that I wanted to show, the last major thing I wanted to show anyways, was being able to collaborate. So when we have our bill of materials, which is great, especially when we're working with CAD data, there may be a point when two people have to have the same thing checked out at the same time. A designer has to work on a part, whereas a project manager or procurement or something like that, they may need to make changes to metadata. They may need to add information. They may need to start moving stuff around in bills of materials. They may need access to that file. And we can't have two files checked out at the same time, because checkout means that you have write access. So if designer has it checked out because they're making changes to it in SolidWorks, you're not going to be able to check it out in Manage, because they're the ones that are making changes. And you don't want to have to go, hey, can you check this in so I can add this in here and check it out and check it back in so you can have it. It just becomes a bit of a production. It becomes a bit confusing. So within Manage, we have the capability of doing what are called linked BOMs, or linked records. So what that means is essentially if I've got a file that is still actively being worked on, or I just want to make a copy of, I can create a linked record of it, which essentially makes a copy of it and then links it back to the original record, and then just replace it in the bill of materials. So I can work, as a project manager or what have you, I can have that checked out and be working on that as a record in our bill of materials, and it'll link back to the original file that the designer could have checked out and could be actively designing in CAD. And when they're done, you could always just replace it back in if you'd like to, or you can keep the linked record. I mean, you're still going to have a direct link to the CAD file. And it's really quick. I mean, you saw it's a right-click, create the linked record, and sub it in, right? It's really, really fast to utilize. You can even do it for assemblies as well. There's a full wizard built into Manage, and it will automatically create all of the BOMs for you, all of the relationships, all of the sub-assembly records and everything like that. So for instance, we've got this assembly here. we can run through the wizard. It'll automatically create those linked records. It'll also automatically populate the BOMs for those records. And if we navigate back to our top level, so we can just jump to our Where Used tab real quick. We can see it's being used at our top level shipping BOM, so we can navigate there and pop open the bill of materials, right? And we'll pop it open at the top there. So if we want to replace that assembly, where is it? Weldment bracket, right click, replace. Again, we can just search for that linked record, pop it in, and it automatically has the bill of materials associated, or the BOM associated with it as well. So you can see you've got 19.1 and 19.2 there, and that works for as many levels deep as you have on an assembly. So really easy to be able to sub in linked records so that you can both have it checked out in Manage and be able to work on it with projects and everything like that, while also having the actual design files checked out by the designer so that they can continue working on them. It really makes that collaboration in parallel working capability really, really easy with Manage. So that is really, really kind of condensed high level of some of the major capabilities with Manage when it comes to bills of materials. Obviously, we can't talk about everything with the limited amount of time that we do have, but certainly there are additional capabilities with Manage as well. For instance, a lot of companies like to start with Excel files. They've got all of these templates, they've got formulas, they've got kind of starter BOMs. You can always import those in to Manage as a bill of materials, and it will automatically associate existing records to that Excel import. So if if your company's process is to start from an Excel spreadsheet, you can certainly continue that, and then you just import it in so that you don't have to create a bill of materials from scratch, and you still get to maintain your templates and everything like that. There is also connectivity capabilities as well. So Manage can connect to pretty much any business system. It's got a lot of different formats that it can connect to, and it can push and pull information. So if it's pulling information to populate on a BOM from an SQL database somewhere else, or if it's exporting out the BOM as an XML so that it can be imported into an ERP. All of those capabilities are absolutely there, and they can all be done through process as well, through an automated process, which we'll see in the later episode of the webinar series, but very, very flexible in working with outside data as well. And bills of materials are available in pretty much every record type in Manage, whether you're working in a process or a project or a document or a record. You pretty much have BOM capabilities everywhere, which is really great because it's going to allow for different bills of materials in different situations, and also it's going to be able to adapt to your process because certainly different companies follow bill of material processes in different ways. So again, very much a kind of a high-level overview of the BOM capabilities. Does look like we came in about 5 minutes under time. I'm not usually under time, so this is exciting for me. And it gives us a little bit of time for any questions that anybody may have. So I will, looks like we've got a couple in there, so I'll take a look here. So the first question I have here is, if I don't have PDM, can I use Manage without it? Not really, no. If you're looking to go to Manage, it's typically the next step out of PDM. So we would never do a Manage implementation without PDM being implemented first. It very much integrates and extends the PDM capabilities. So I would say you're going to need PDM before you get Manage. The other question I've got here is there any revision control on the bill of materials? There absolutely is. In fact, let me pop open. So you are going to have different version of revision control on the bills of materials. I should have a bill of materials here. So you can see this is on revision B. So if I open this record and I go to the BOM, maybe we'll change this to a flat view and show images. So if I go to A, I can see what A looked like. If I go to B, I can see what B looks like. So you're going to have full revision control of your bills of materials also. So I got another question here. So in Manage, can you update properties of each detail purchase item if it is not checked out? So in order to adjust any information on any one of these records, you will have to have it checked out. And that's just by design. You're going to want to make sure that you have ownership to make those changes. Now, there is also a way to link fields to different parts. So for instance, with PDM to manage and kind of manage to PDM, you can fill out a field, have it checked out in PDM, fill it out, and it will automatically update into manage. But to change anything on a specific record or not, you would have to have that checked out for sure. And that's really where those linked records are really great, because you can have kind of two records representing the same record. So just kind of a continuation of the revision control in the BOM. Is there an area for notes and what's changed or anything like that? There absolutely can be. And I think that's an important point too, is that Manage is highly, highly configurable. So for instance, here I've got just kind of a basic layout of part number, description, all that kind of stuff. But I can put any field in here that I want. So certainly if you've got a notes section or something like that, or if you're utilizing a revision table, for instance, with SOLIDWORKS parts and stuff like that, we can have that automatically fill out as well. So if you want to create a revision notes for records specifically, if you want to be able to pull information from existing fields, you can absolutely display that information. All right. I think I got all of the questions. Okay. So, fantastic. So thank you guys so much for joining today. I appreciate it. We are pretty much right on time, which is great. Also, I mean, tune in next week as well. Next week we're going over processes, how those work. They're very similar to workflow in PDM, except they're a lot more visual. So we'll be going through some processes. We'll see how it also works with transitioning through PDM workflows. Very, very cool stuff. And how those interact with dashboards as well. Dashboards are unbelievable in Manage. Very, very cool. And we'll see how those work together. So have a wonderful week, and we will see you on Monday next week.